Hey everybody, welcome to eDiscovery After Hours. I'm your host, Ryan Short. Today, my guest is Kaylee Walstad of the EDRM. Kaylee and I had a blast. We talked about Barbara Walters' stone and granite tiles and marbles and things like this. We talked about the homeless population and how that came to be such a passion of hers, and a lot of other ground as well, including her career and how she got into eDiscovery. Today's sponsor is Discovery Master. Discovery Master is a new legal tech product that answers the questions that every in-house litigator and law firm litigator wants to know about document review projects in relativity, which is, what have you found in the documents? When is it going to be done? And how much does it cost me? Check out www.discoverymaster.co for more and enjoy.
Quick time!
You don't know how to drink, your whole generation.
Drinks on the house.
Yes, sir.
No, wait a second. Drinks are 50% off.
Right.
No, wait a second. Double the price of everything.
And I work only 16 hours a day.
A union man only works 8 hours a day.
I belong to 2 unions.
And now, eDiscovery After Hours with your host, Ryan Short.
All right, Kaylee Walstad, welcome to eDiscovery After Hours. Cheers.
Cheers, my friend. I'm so excited to be here. Having a little Sonoma-Cutrer with you.
Indeed. Yeah, what are we drinking? You gave away the brand. What's in the glass here?
A little Delish Chardonnay. Ice cold. It has to be ice cold.
It has to be. And I sent you a goofy email earlier today asking what we were drinking, and then you replied to the joke, but not to the question. So I just guessed Chardonnay from memory. So we're kosher. We're good. Everything is great.
I thought you were being funny because I had already told you it's the only wine I drink. I'm not, unless it's an Oregon Pinot, but I'm not a big red wine drinker.
And
I like
now
my
the Oregon Pinot. That's a pretty big departure. Is this like a Mary influence? Like how did this sneak in?
It's a huge Mary influence. She caught me at a weak moment. I tried it and I was like, wow, this is really, really good. It's not, a lot of red wines just don't resonate with me. They're super dry.
Yeah.
You know, knowing me, I like the sweeter stuff, right?
That's why we hit it off so well.
There.
Well, I'll have to have her on the show now just so I can have an excuse for her to ship me a bottle of the Oregon Pinot.
Oh,
right?
She will. She will do that, plus these Oregon chocolates. Have her on and tell her that's the price of entry.
Yes, that's duly. Let me make a note of that right now, actually.
She absolutely will love to share that. Oregon Pinots, I don't know what, there's some magic there. They're really good.
Fantastic. So, Kaylee, this show is probably a bit of a departure from what you're used to, right? I mean, you're one of the most kind of, I guess, camera-ready people in the industry. You're at every panel, you're at every virtual trade show, you're on all these podcasts and videocasts. But now you're having a glass of wine on camera and you have no idea what I'm going to ask you, as opposed to the typical disciplined panel prep. How's your heart rate right now?
Oh, I love this stuff. I think that these types of discussions are the kinds of discussions that allow people to like pull back the Wizard of Oz curtain and just hear an actual authentic and transparent conversation with two people. It's a fireside chat. We're having our wine. Yeah. It's like we're having a little virtual happy hour. I've never met you in person, Ryan, but I feel like you're already my brother and I know you really well through this pandemic. From the first time that I met you and you shared that you were actually having our call in your master bedroom closet as you were segueing to working from home. Do you remember that? And you like opened up your camera and gave us Mary and I a little sneak peek. And we were like, we love this guy. He's so memorable. Everybody has their pandemic like moments, right? Especially in the beginning, because there was no forgiveness on video calls. or even just a phone call. If people heard your dog bark,
Yeah.
if they heard your doorbell ring, you always wanted to pretend like you were in the office, and God forbid that your kid would scream or be like, Daddy, I need you. And, you know, you think about this, but right before the pandemic, this news reporter made national news because, yes, he had to work from home. I can't remember why. It may have been weather related, actually, is what I think. I've made up anyway. But he was working from home and his kid opened the door and walked in, and he was like just freaked out, and it made national news. Now it'd be like, what?
Yeah.
What's the big fuss about there? Because we've all been invited into each other's homes. We've met each other's pets. Animals bark, kids cry. Your spouse might yell at you, not knowing that you're, or partner or kids or anything, because they don't realize that you're on a call, right? So
I do remember that conversation. You were one of the first people that we showed Discovery Master to, because it was still in beta. And we were literally just showing it to people, being like, do you like this? Because we built it for ourselves and we think other people will buy it. What do you think, right? And I remember that first conversation, because I had gotten it scheduled, and I said to Ray, I was like, hey, we're talking to Mary and Kaylee. And he was like, really? He's like, they're like the queens of eDiscovery. This is real. So that's a thing. And then I remember, I turned off my background filter, and I was like, these are my clothes, because I am in the closet. I can't remember. I've recorded a few of these shows now. I can't remember if somebody else brought that up, because I knew them from the early days of the pandemic too, or not.
we're just all happy you came out of the closet, Ryan.
My mother-in-law, most especially. Yeah. But you know, the funniest thing about that video that you brought up, because I totally forgot about that, was his wife just slid in and grabbed that kid like a Navy SEAL, man. Like, she was not messing around. That was hardcore. No. You know, then my kids would come and hop onto a video chat like this, right? And my wife is like handing me like the diaper stuff, and you know, well, why did you change them while you're at it? So yeah, what are you gonna do?
And think about it. That's the normal now. If somebody's kid sneaks into the room and pops up, everyone's like, oh, what's your child's name? Oh, yeah. So cute. It's not like, oh, he's working from home. Shame on him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a whole lot more grace that we've been giving each other through this pandemic, for sure.
Absolutely. So, Kaylee, you are in Minneapolis-ish, right?
I am literally 15 minutes to the west of Minneapolis in a lovely little suburb.
And is this where you grew up?
It is.
Okay, love it. So you're a good Midwestern girl.
Yes, I am.
When you were growing up outside of Minneapolis, what was the big ambitious plan? What were you going to do and be?
I was going to be the next Barbara Walters.
Oh, well played. You came close. I mean, you're on camera.
You know, in a lot of ways, some of what I wanted to do, I'm doing all the time. But I actually went to college for that. And so in the School of Journalism, when I was a freshman, the professors were very excited. And they were like, oh, we're going to put you on the school news channel. And I mean, I'd never lived away from home. I was like adjusting. And so they were like, nope, you need to wear these things and boom, get you up on the stage. And I just remember getting so sick, just nauseous over it. I hated it. I didn't like it at all. And I decided I would rather be on the school radio station.
Sure.
Which is what I did. And they were less than thrilled about that and kept trying to put me on this news thing and on the TV. And so then they finally were like, okay, you can cover sports. And I was like, okay, I don't know a lot, but I'm going to do it. So that was my big aspiration, the next Barbara Walters.
So, and all right, you went to school for journalism. I have a telecommunications undergrad. And so when you were doing the radio for the Student Center, were you like a DJ? Were you a newscaster? What type of
newscaster? And then I also wrote for the school paper.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. So did you end up tapping into this professionally at all? Or was that just you graduated and went in a completely different direction?
Graduated, went in a completely different direction.
Okay, I love
Called
it.
construction.
Before,
So my dad worked for a large brick distributor
okay.
and was their senior VP of sales. And they started other divisions. And so in my senior year of college, my dad called me and he was like, I want you to come home and you're going to run this new division of mine, selling marble and granite for residential and commercial projects. We're going to open up a showroom in what we called the International Design House, which was in downtown Minneapolis. And you'll meet customers there, blah, blah, blah. And it was a literally starting up a whole new division for this company. It was Midwest Companies. Good Midwest strong name.
Yeah, good name.
And
he called you. This is during your senior year.
Oh yeah.
So he's like, stop. You've put in 3.5 years. Come home. Don't do that anymore. Come back.
You're gonna start this up.
Okay.
You're gonna start it up. So obviously, my dad paid the bills at the time. So, and I also thought this is going to be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I went and did that and did this whole startup, hired people, learned all about marble and granite. It's still a love of mine. I love stone. But yeah, so I did that for years until I don't even know how many years, maybe 5. But in there, I got a company car, which was cool, and one of the very first cell phones that came in a suitcase.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What was that?
Like this big, and I used 2 hands.
Cell phone? Didn't they call it like a car phone or a
Car phone.
Yeah.
I got a car phone.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
and
right.
some people called it a mobile phone, but I did not. It was a car phone. And there were hardly any. So it was like, all my friends were like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. So yeah. Yeah,
but to all of our friends, all of our listeners and viewers in the EU, we love our mobile phones as well.
We do love them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So your Barbara Walters story, when I was 4, maybe 5, my mom sent me to a little vacation Bible school with the neighbor kids. And she went to pick us up one day, and the teacher was like my grandma's age. And so she's saying to my mom, she's like, oh, Ryan is just, he's just so sweet. And, he's just this, precocious little boy. And do you know who he reminds me of? And my mom thought she was going to say, like her grandson or her son when he was young or whatever. And my mom was like, no, who? And she goes, he's a little Ted Koppel.
Wow. I'll say cheers to that.
Yeah. So I don't really know to this day. I still don't know how to take that. Ted Koppel's a bit before my time, but so that's
okay. So Ted, you know what Ted Koppel was known for, right?
I mean, aside from his fabulous hair,
he did have fabulous hair, and he made sure he did. But Ted Koppel, if you think back to news, to straight on news that wasn't commentary, opinions, or anything else, Ted Koppel was somebody we invited into our homes. He was a trusted voice. He also was witty, very witty, but really like sharp, gave you the information you needed, and a trusted Midwesterner, even if he wasn't a Midwesterner. He got invited into our homes, and that was a big deal.
Yeah.
You think about that.
That's what you always hear about the Walter Cronkite, right? Like when he took off his glasses and looked up at the clock and rubbed his brow, people always talk about how they felt like they were watching like their dad say grandpa died or something like. Oh yeah. And that bond, we don't have that anymore, right?
No.
It's gone.
No, we don't. And it's because our news, if you think about our local news, right? We get our news, and I tend to watch that more than anything and then do my own research on other news. So I get the actual facts and not somebody's opinion. But if you think about like our national and international news, you've got Fox, you've got CNN, you've got BBC, you've got MSNBC, a whole variety of things. But they're all like, okay, so I am a Republican, I'm watching Fox. and I'm getting the slant on that news instead of news that I get to make a decision on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why they really were trusted. And if they said there's a real problem, oh yeah, there was a real problem.
I can save you, though, about a half hour a day, Kaylee, if you'll allow me. Instead of watching the local news, just assume somewhere in the viewing area there was a warehouse fire, there's a city council meeting, and somebody's mad at the mayor. Done.
That's about right.
You just got 30 minutes. It's always those warehouse fires with the aerial footage of the booms, you know?
We don't have as many of that here in Minneapolis. No, our latest thing has been carjackings, which is kind of scary.
Yeah. So I was in Chicago this past weekend, and they've already had more carjackings there 3 months into the year than they have all of 2020 combined. Isn't that nuts?
We're exactly the same. It's happening around the downtown, like Minneapolis and St. Paul, in the downtown area, and then that fringy outlier of not so much the suburbs. But people, it doesn't matter what time of day.
Yeah.
They're being
what time of day, what type of car, how many people are in it. It's crazy.
Yep. We had somebody drive off in an Amber Alert maybe 2 weeks ago. Carjacking, drove off with somebody's baby.
Ugh.
It all ended well, though. All ended well. But I mean, that's something that we never heard about here, like ever. And I feel like we're hearing about it a lot. So
Yikes.
That's a big change.
Well, let's pivot back to something happier because I'm drinking. So, all right, I knew that you had a first act, so to speak, prior to eDiscovery, but I didn't know that it was in stone and marble and granites. I'll send you some tiles samples for the bathroom, by the way. Okay. So how did you transition, right? I mean, people can look at LinkedIn and get some sort of an idea of how one step incrementally leads to the other. But how did you end up in this crazy, small, global, niche, multi-billion-dollar industry? So
the construction industry took a tank when there was a mini recession in the 80s, towards the late 80s. And one of my friends was like, you know what? I think you do really good with this high-tech startup that just reached out to me. They're specifically looking for people that just want to learn, that they can train. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Not a bad. I'll go check it out and find out. And the company was called Laser Master. I think there were 3 women and 50 men. And they did, like if you had an HP printer, they had a card that you could put in it for the graphic arts industry that made it higher resolution. And so they taught me everything I needed to know. I grew from an entry-level sales rep to their first ever national sales manager, and I was traveling all over Canada and the US. And then I got pregnant and had my first child, Ashley, and traveling really not so much, didn't work.
Yeah.
And so one of my good friends who worked for Icon said, hey, we're looking for a digital high volume manager to manage these OSE printers that are $150,000, $200,000. Come help our sales force sell this. And I was like, perfect. I don't have to travel. This is cool. It's still digital. Because I was on something called CC Mail, which was the very first DOS-based email ever. And it was awful, but I thought I was the coolest person ever.
Yeah.
So
you were, by the way, you were the coolest person ever. Yeah.
So I went to Icon and did the high volume printers for a year. And they were like, you know what? We think we really want you to manage a sales team. So after a year, I segued into that. And then 8 months later, Icon bought our largest competitor and merged us and them together. And they made me the director of sales over half of the sales organization. And so I did that. And then I took a little hiatus to be a mom and did all kinds of fun things, sat on some boards. Of course, I didn't sit still. And when I went back to work, it was in 2011 when the economy we were in our financial crisis.
Yeah.
And Icon had always, it had been purchased by Ricoh, but a lot of the same people worked there.
Yeah.
And they were like, please come back, please come back. We want you to go into this division that does electronic discovery. And they have a paper scanning shop. It's downtown. And I was like, my sister is a senior paralegal. So I thought, okay, she works downtown. I'll at least have her for a customer, boom, off the bat, right?
Yeah.
I'll do it. And it turned out to be like literally kismet, the love of my life. I like that you never know what each day is going to bring you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just never know. Yeah. And I have met the most amazing people, clients that have become dear friends over the years. And it's suited me to a T. And it's definitely not for everybody because every day is different, right? You have to be able to like that and the challenge and be curious and deal with challenging situations and people, by the way. But it worked for me. It's been great.
I would say that's an understatement that it's worked for you. Yes. So I want to pivot a little bit to life outside the office, right? Because there's been a lot of serendipity in your career. And I use the phrase from time to time, it's better to be lucky than good. It's best to be both, right? And I think that eDiscovery has been a great intersection for you of both. But outside of eDiscovery, you mentioned sitting on some boards, right? So tell me about the interfaith outreach and community partners that you've been a part of.
Interface outreach and community partners. So that would be, I'm taking that to mean my work with homeless shelters, for instance.
I guess I'm just reading from your LinkedIn. That sufficed as my research, and you have that listed. You have that listed on there. Food
shelves. I helped get the Minnesota High School Equestrian Association started in the early 90s. I rode horses and showed horses. My daughter did as well, and she went on to ride for a college equestrian team. So that's a real passion that I have and share with my daughter. Yeah. So those would be some types of things. But I think, outside of work, really on my heart has always been how to help our homeless population. And secondarily, in the pandemic, man, there are a lot of people and families that don't have food. They don't have enough food. How do we get them food? How do we one person can make a huge difference. I've always believed that. How do we mobilize our friends and neighbors to help give and donate? And part of it is just sharing and talking about the problem. And it's real everywhere. It's every state.
How did the homeless population come to be such a passion point to you? What is it that drew you to those people and their struggles?
What's interesting? I would say some of my first vacations with my family. And here in Minneapolis and where I lived, we didn't see homeless people, right? But in other cities, it's more prevalent. And I don't know, it just from a child on, it's just been like one of those things that's just on your heart. You can't explain why, but it's something that's just always been on my heart. And when I worked downtown, it was a joke at my office because I had dollar bills and we had an Arby's downtown. So I went and bought $5 Arby's gift cards. Yeah. And then, so instead of just giving money, food. And in the winter, a big thing is shelter. So it costs $7 to go stay in a homeless shelter overnight. I knew that. And I always had X amount of $7 to dole out. But people in the mornings, after I started this new job downtown, there would probably be 10 to 12 homeless people that I knew their first names and their stories waiting on the front step. So it's just one of those things. I can't explain it. It just is what it is.
I think that's really beautiful. When we lived in Chicago, my wife talks about how, you're walking on the sidewalk and you talk to these people and you know their names and you get to know them as human beings, right? And they're not just this nameless threat, they're at the intersection, roll up your window and lock your door. Like they're people. That's somebody's son and daughter and brother and sister, and you lose that because for so many Americans who live in a suburban or a rural setting, they've never had a conversation with somebody, right? And I definitely noticed that even being aware of that phenomenon, I saw that in myself as we moved from a walkable city where you're out and about, and I didn't own a car for 6 years, right? To then being in a more suburban setting like we are here, it does change. And if you're not careful, you can become really, I don't want to say callous, but maybe that is the right word, right? And you
more hardened. I think a lot of people are more hardened, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of them do have very real sad stories. And I've met in recent times a lot of ex-military. And those are veterans. It's very sad. And just simply stopping just for a few minutes to talk and, oh, you're a veteran. Thank you so much for your service. I've literally had people weeping and thanking me just for taking 5 minutes. And a lot of them say, you made me feel human, and it's a very real thing. And we've got some cool things that people have started here. People have transformed like a food trucky kind of a thing into a mobile shower, and then we'll give you a haircut.
Oh, so cool.
And lots of really like cool things. And so, but I think it's deciding some of the ways that make me feel the happiest is in helping others and in serving others. I think that's a real passion for me.
I love that. That's absolutely wonderful. All right, last question before I let you go. I can keep you here all night if you want. All right, the only other thing that your profile says, you can tell about 5 minutes before we came on air, I just went to your LinkedIn and that was my research for the show. So
perfect.
Oops. Okay, fried food lover.
It's a real problem.
Prove it. What's the most disgusting fried food, like deep fried butter, Twinkies, bacon? Like what's the deal? When you go to the state fair, what's the thing that most people are like, that's putrid, and you go, no, it is not?
That is a good question, because you would not believe how much I've had. Deep fried Spam with cream cheese. Oh, it's delicious.
Oh.
Freaking delicious. Deep fried pickles with cream cheese. That's not so uncommon, right?
Yeah.
I don't like the deep fried Twinkies, and I'll tell you why. They disintegrate. So that's just, I tried it once, not so good, but a deep fried Reese's peanut butter cup, 2 thumbs up.
I mean, it feels a little cruel though. Like the Reese's peanut butter cup is already perfect. Why mess with it?
It makes it that much better. I've had deep fried alligator. I only did that one time. Deep fried cheesecake. That was really good. Yeah, there's all kinds of deep. I'll try anything deep fried once, and that's the truth.
That's awesome. Kaylee, I usually end the show by asking people, this show is not about the industry, it's about the people in it. But is there anything about, eDiscovery or information governance or cybersecurity, anything that's rattling around in your brain, anything that you've been talking about or thinking about a lot lately that you just want to put a little plug in there for?
Do you know what? First of all, I will give a little plug for Discovery Master's new tool. If you haven't seen it, Mary Mack and I have seen it several times. It's incredible. Ask for a demo. The reporting structures and information are just unbelievable. So take a look at that. I think the biggest thing that I've been talking about lately within our eDiscovery, information governance, security, privacy group is mental health, as we are over a year in the pandemic. There's been a lot of conversations about it, and I think I've been telling everybody, light is at the end of the tunnel. The light is at the end of the tunnel. Don't fall before the finish line. Ask for help if you need it. And at the EDRM, Mary Mack and I are always here, and reach out to us at info@edrm.net if you need any help whatsoever.
Awesome. I love it. Could not end on a better note. Kaylee, thank you so much for coming on.
You're the absolute best. I'm going to give you a cheers with my huge wine glass. And thanks for having me on. What an honor. Thanks, Ryan.